Hello and welcome to another episode of the Floridian Sports Podcast. Thank you for joining in today. Today we're going to be talking about the Orlando Magic and the 2021 NBA Draft. Basically, I'm going to be talking about a mock draft from my own vision for the Atlanta Magic and where they're going to go with these picks hours before the actual NBA Draft being, today at 8 o'clock, July 29th. Now, specifically this draft is more significant than any other year for the Orlando Magic fans. And I say this because this is the technical start of the rebuild. Now, you could probably argue that it was last year during the trade deadline when Evan Fournier was traded away to Boston and then Vucevic was traded away to Chicago, a lot of it for draft capital for later years. However, this is where the new head coach starts to build the team around his liking. Now, of course, Jamal Mosley coming off from the staff as an assistant coach under Rick Carlisle at Dallas. He's going to find some forwards he wants. He's an offensive minded type of guy. I expect him to really use big men a lot in his system. And this year is the draft to do it, especially at the forward position. And the great part about it, when forwards are coming out of the draft, a lot of forwards are coming out due to free agency. And speaking of free agency, some of the forwards just to mention that are coming out from Orlando Magic into free agency, and this is one that comes to mind. He's unrestricted free agent. Michael Porter Jr. is another one who's unrestricted free agent, which I cannot expect him to be back in Orlando. And in a sense of a guard position for this year's draft, I don't really expect the top two picks being for guards, specifically picks number 5 and pick number 8. However, the late pick, number 33 in the second round, early in the second round, I do have a guard in mind. However, in the second round, it's kind of like a ball game. Anybody's up in the air to get drafted during that time. But there is one guy that I have specifically in mind, and I'll go into that while I'm doing the mock draft. And I only say that for the guards just because, Fultz is probably going to be staying for multiple years. We just got R.J. Hampton off of the trades. I mean, you probably argue for Harris probably being out after next season. I mean, he's basically a foot outside the door. I don't know if he wants to stay in Orlando. I don't even know if I even want him to stay in Orlando, honestly, if R.J. Hampton does well with Fultz in the starting lineup position. So, without a further ado, of course, I'm going to go straight into my picks for the mock draft. And these picks are actually going to be brought to you by Highway Temptation. And if you're into video games, if you're into gameplays, Final Fantasy, anything like that, there's a group of guys out there that go by the name Highway Temptation. If you want to find them on social media, they have an Instagram called Highway Temptation, all together, lowercase. They haven't made a lot of new videos out. However, there's one in the works that I believe will be hilarious because these guys are just funny and entertaining to watch. So check that out, Highway Temptations, on Instagram as well as on YouTube. Now, going into these picks, we're going to start with the first round, pick number 5. This guy's name has been everywhere in the mock drafts, going back and forth. The real question was if he was going to get picked number 5 or number 8. I haven't picked number 5, Scottie Barnes, coming out of Florida State University, a really great ACC basketball program over there. We're talking about a guy from the corner to the notes, 6'9", 227 pounds. I have him as a culture-setting type of player, somebody that will kind of elevate the game for a lot of the young guys on the team. And Orlando is filled with young guys. So we're talking about a guy that has multiple positions. He can play defense. He's a versatile defender. He has playmaking ability as a guard, as a forward guard, if you want to call it that. I mean, this guy can do a lot of things. I mean, he played only one season at Florida State, averaged 10 points, according to the stats, 4 rebounds. He did all that within 23.8 minutes per game. However, you have to also think about it because, only one season there in Florida State, basically a freshman. Out of 24 games, he starts 7 of them. His free throw for a big, and I'm going to assume that he's a big at the 4 position, it's not that bad. 62%, basically career-wise. And then his three-point is a little bit choppy. We're talking about like a 28% from the 3. However, he's expected to make those open ones. And some of the perks I had from him, solid in transition. If you look up his highlight reels, you have him driving in, acrobatic finishes, back and forth on it. I mean, he can slam it, he can lay it up, he can do anything you want down low. He's a really great offensive player down low. If you ask me specifically, he is a great playmaker. His vision is incredible. a lot of no-look passes. He's a little bit cocky with it too, because he knows how good he is. Now, he's a terrific guy with vision. He lob passes, lob finishes. He does all that. Lengthy defender. And the one thing I find really interesting about this guy, even though he is pretty solid one-on-one, the one thing that kind of makes him a standout defensively is anticipation for the ball. He's able to basically off his lengthy arms of his wingspan, cross out, get the ball out from defenders off a pass, intercepts here and there, and that creates a lot of transition baskets, a lot of fast breaks, especially for the Florida State team. And this guy overall, I believe he's a proven guy to be NBA ready. He's a proven guy to me that I can say he's a great fifth pick. However, there's a lot of things going on in Orlando where there's you can get this guy at the eighth pick if you wanted to. He could drop even past the eighth pick. However, the one guy that might not drop is Jonathan. And when I mean Jonathan Kuminga. Now, Jonathan Kuminga, if you do not know, he specifically is a G League player right now. At the age of 18, he's going to be in this year's draft, and he was potentially the number one pick in this year's draft. But unfortunately, his draft stock has declined. And the thing is for me is when I was making this mock draft, how far can Jonathan drop? Do I believe that if he's picked up by Orlando in the fifth, was that a good decision? Do I believe that if Jonathan was able to, let's say, drop past OKC at number 6, drop past the Warriors at number 7? Because I'm thinking to myself, OKC, yeah, sure, they could get him for later on years. However, he's been a little bit unproven in the G League. And then for the Warriors standpoint, at pick number 7, they're going to have to find somebody that's, able to make an impact next season. I don't believe Jonathan can make an impact next season immediately. I still figure out that he's probably the most rawest talent. A lot of potential out of this kid, Jonathan. And that's where I'm going to go with the number 8th pick. I expect Jonathan Kuminga to drop all the way to number 8. And just to give you kind of a heads up, who is Jonathan? Well, Jonathan Kuminga, he's basically from the Congo. He played in the G League on Team Ignite. He's a 6'8 forward, 210 pounds. And as I said before, considered number 1. Draft stock has plummeted after 13 games in the G League. And just to go from the stats, we're talking about an average of 15.8 per game in points, 38 to 39% in field goal range, not really good. 3-point is a little bit off and terrible. We're talking about like 25%. And of course, from the free throw line, 62.5, which isn't bad for a forward. However, he didn't really show that in his workouts. The Orlando Magic had a workout for pre-draft in Orlando, and there was a couple of things that really caught my eye. When he was asking reporters, I'm going to go right to the quotes that he said. He talked about being an all-around player, that he sees himself as a franchise player, which I find that really intriguing just because, there's a lot of talk about him dropping in the draft, not being able to be a top 3 pick this year. However, he still believes he's still that number 1 guy, and a lot of people are letting up on him. And if Orlando can somehow pick him up at number 8, that would be a steal. That, to me, would be a steal. I wouldn't pick him up at number 5 over Scottie just because I feel like Barnes is more of the proven guy in this year's draft that can really make a real impact, and somebody that if we don't pick him up, OKC will pick him up. Or Golden State will pick him up. He might even be picked up before that number 5 pick. However, this guy, Jonathan, I can guarantee you is probably going to be dropping below the 5th pick. The real question is if we get him at number 8. I do believe we get him number 8. I'm hoping we get him number 8 because this guy's been an all-around great prospect. There's a lot of things to look at. And we're talking about explosive in transition, another versatile defender at a forward position, and then a deadly mid-range. Unfortunately, his shot's not bad. It just wasn't really going in during those 13 games. But he does have a deadly mid-range, which we should be looking at as a positive. And hopefully the Orlando Magic can switch it up if they do draft him in the beginning. But in the sense of the Orlando Magic drafting him, it just depends. As I said before, a lot of guys might pick him up from 6th and 7th. Some of the names of teams that he mentioned that he was a part of their pre-draft workouts, we're talking about OKC, Toronto at number 4, Cleveland, Golden State Warriors, and of course Orlando. So with that being said, we know he's not a number one pick from these type of teams going on with a pre-draft, but he's possibly from number 3 to number 8. That's kind of the range where he falls in. And I don't know how far he's going to drop, but hopefully he drops to number 8 for us. And of course, to the second round, the last pick of the night for Orlando at pick number 33. I'm really excited if we can get this kid for Orlando Magic. Now, I might butcher the name a little bit. I'm not too good with this guy's name. Ayo Dosunmu, right? Ayo is basically a guard out of Illinois. He's a 3-year guy, a junior coming out of the Illinois school. 6'5", 200 pounds. And I love it because there's not a lot of flaws in his game. He's a great closer, great shooter. He really does play well defensively. Gets actually a couple of blocks at his height as a guard. And in 3 years, we're talking about a Big Ten championship and a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament recently in 2021. So this guy's a winner. This guy has been there for the long haul. And he just gets better every single year. I mean, according to the stats right now, last season he got an average of about 20 points, 6 rebounds, 5.3 assists, and we're talking of a 48.8% from field goal percentage. Not only that, that's an improvement in points, in assists, rebounds. I mean, it goes on and on. Free throws, field goal percentage. That's the best seasons he's had, and he's only going to get better. Now, if you ask me specifically of his weaknesses, the only thing I really put down, throwing to the notes, he lacks elite athleticism and speed. However, his ball handling and quick first step, it makes up for it regardless. I mean, he's really hard to catch when he's driving in. When he's going, he gets going. He's hot. I mean, he's really hot from the 3. So this is a guy that you want to have on your team. I mean, some other things I wrote about him, we're talking of a guy that is an elite Illinois product. Now, he's great. I mean, probably even a better playmaker of that, if anything. So if the Orlando Magic do find him, I suspect him to get him. Even though he's a guard and we don't really need a huge need of guards at the moment, I expect him to be a huge star in the NBA. If I was going to make a comparison, and this might be a little bit outlandish, I compare him to a Dwayne Wade. I really do compare him to a Dwayne Wade. I feel like defensively he can live up to the height of Dwayne Wade. I feel like athleticism, he's not really there yet, but that will build up when he's in the NBA, and his game will build up the more he gets better. And I expect him to get better every single year that he's going to be in the NBA. Depends on the minutes that he does get fighting off of the guard position if we do draft him. Now, it's kind of another situation where if he's even going to be available at that pick number 33, because I saw a couple of mock drafts, he might get picked up at number 29 or maybe within like the last bit of the first round. However, if he drops to pick number 33, that's a solid pick for the Orlando Magic. And that's basically going to sum up this mock draft for 2021 for the Orlando Magic. I want to thank you again for staying through the entire episode. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Leave a comment. I'm always trying to build up the channel. And I hope to see you guys later on for the week update this Sunday for all the Floridian teams. So hope you have a good night, and thank you.